Hi, everybody. This is Paul Hitchcock, and welcome to Wealth Protector TV. This is our channel at Barth Calderon. We're a law firm where we get content out to you. We're an asset protection, estate planning, business planning law firm located in Orange County, California, with about 12,000 clients across the country. And Phil Shekerlian here is one of our top attorneys, partner at the firm, senior partner. And so what we're doing here, I just want to get into it, is we want to bring you value and just let you know what Phil in particular is dealing with his clients, issues that are coming up that could be relevant for you. So Phil, you and I were talking a bit offline as we got into this about some of the conservatorship stuff that you're going through. What's happening? What's the landscape there?
Yeah, so for whatever reason, we're getting a lot of calls lately for not calls for conservatorships, but calls that turn into their only solution is a conservatorship. Um, you know, in addition to the many benefits of doing an estate plan or any type of plan, having the ability to have somebody manage your finances and healthcare when you're incapacitated is super huge. And we're getting calls, like my mom is has dementia and she's got these bank accounts and we need to pay her bills and we can't get to the bank accounts. What do we do?
Oh yeah.
And
Yeah.
if there's no power of attorney, then you got to petition the court. And that process is a conservatorship and it costs, ten to $15,000 and can take several months to get put in place.
So Phil, is this a case where somebody did not have any estate planning in place? They didn't have a living trust, and so it's going this way?
Yeah, and yeah, they didn't have an estate plan. The trust doesn't really help with this. It could, but usually it doesn't. Usually the document you need is a power of attorney, a financial power of attorney. And I guess one of the things to point out is a lot of people don't realize if you don't want to do a trust, you can still do a power of attorney and healthcare directive.
Oh, okay.
Everybody should have one of those, no matter what age you are, as long as you're over 18. No matter what age, you should have one because at any point in time, you could become incapacitated. I've had calls from parents. Hey, my son was in a car accident. He's in a coma, and I can't do anything about his finances. I had one in particular. She believed he had millions of dollars worth of Bitcoin, and he couldn't do anything about, or she couldn't do anything about it, the mother. And so it's really an important document for everybody to have a financial power of attorney. And then, Paul, are you familiar with the Terry Schiavo case from the
Yeah,
late
yeah, yeah. That
2000s?
was a horrible one years ago. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I mean that's the reason for a healthcare directive. Long story short, she was in a coma and she needed life support, and I can't remember which one was which, but parents wanted one thing, husband wanted the other. They couldn't decide on whether or not to pull the plug or keep her on life support, and so it ended up in an 8-year court battle that went all the way up to the Supreme Court, and even the president of the United States got involved at the time. And this whole time, this poor lady was sitting on life support for 8 years.
Yep. Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. Just the most heinous story you can imagine, which I want to dial back a bit. So, Phil, if somebody doesn't have any planning, they're coming to you and you say, okay, you want to put together, the estate plan package for them.
mhm.
What does that include?
Yeah, good question. Yeah. So, most people think of the estate plan as the trust or the will. And the trust is probably the most important document for your assets. But to me, it's not even the most important document of the whole thing. Um, the nomination of guardians, I think, is the most important document.
Ah, okay.
If you have minor children and something happens to both parents unexpectedly, then there's nobody legally appointed to take care of those children. And the family, let's say they can agree on who takes care of the children, they still have to petition the court to get it done, and that can take some time. It can take a few months. If the family can't agree, now you're talking a legal battle that can take years. And in
Okay.
the meantime, where do the kids go? Do they end up in foster care or something like that? You really don't want that to happen to your children. You want to make sure you have that simple nomination of guardians in place, and then somebody has immediate legal authority to take care of your kids.
Is the nomination of guardian, guardian form, whatever that is there language in there where you spell out what actually happens, or is it just a form you sign a document? Like what exactly is that?
So there's probably some kind of template somewhere where you just fill in the blanks, but we do them custom for the clients. And one of the big things to keep in mind is there's two types of guardians. There's a guardian of the person and a guardian of the estate. And it's meant to be kind of a checks and balances system. So the guardian of the person is who cares for the child, who physically has custody of the child. But the guardian of the state is who's in control of the child's money. And so if you're a parent and you say, well, my brother is probably going to be the best person, or let's back up on that. My sister is going to be the best person to care for the child because she's got kids and blah blah blah, this and that. But my brother, he doesn't have kids. He's a financial advisor. He's better with money than my sister is. So maybe I'll make my brother the guardian of the estate and my sister the guardian of the person, and then they can work hand in hand to make sure the kid gets the best outcome.
Okay, so you got the guardian document and what goes on in there. What's
Mhm.
another piece of this
Yeah, so
package?
so then like we were just talking about the healthcare directive and power of attorney. If you're incapacitated but still alive, a trust doesn't usually do you any good for your finances or healthcare. And so you need to have those documents as well. And again, those you don't need to have a trust to have any of these other documents. Everything I'm talking about can be a standalone document. You don't have
Okay.
to have the whole package, but this is typically what we do as part of an estate plan. And then you have, like I said, the trust that controls everything. And if for some reason at the time of your death, not all of your assets were in the trust, which means the trust can't control them if they're not properly transferred into the trust, then you have a pour over will, which allows the probate court to assign all the assets to your trust.
Okay, and so the documents that deal with the financial powers of attorney and so forth, uh, that's for stuff that happens during your lifetime. And you who do people name? Like, what's the strategy there with the financial powers of attorney? Are there just multiple people, one person?
Yeah, so we always recommend against having multiple people make the decision at the same time. The person in charge for the financial power of attorney and healthcare power of attorney, they're called your agent. And really, we really dissuade clients from having more than one agent serving at a time, because if you have to get two people to agree and they can't agree, now you've got a whole bigger mess on your hands. So what we try to say is, hey, you got two kids, pick one kid to be the primary and then another kid to be the backup.
Okay.
And so that's what most people do. They name their kids or their parents or their siblings as their agents on those documents. Um, they have to keep in mind, if it's financial power of attorney, is this person any good with finances and managing money?
Right, right.
If it's the healthcare directive, is the person I'm nominating, are they even strong enough to make a decision like whether or not to pull the plug or something along those lines?
And Phil, then for that, uh then the financial stuff, is it what actually happens if it's not in place? You mentioned it can be expensive, but if things are frozen, can you even get any money to pay bills or do anything? Does it like what actually plays out there?
Not legally, you can't. What happens in actuality sometimes is the family member will have your login to your bank account and they'll just do bill auto pay through there.
Uh
That's not legal to do, but people do that.
yeah,
The only legal way to navigate that situation is to petition the court for a conservatorship and to
right.
be appointed by the court to have that authority. But that's a long process. You've got to go through, filing a petition with the court. The court's going to appoint an investigator to go out and make sure that you are fit to be in charge, make sure that the person who's the proposed conservatee is actually incapacitated and can't manage their own finances or healthcare decisions, whatever it may be. And then the court's going to try to limit the authority of the conservator as much as possible. They may say, hey, in this situation, you've only shown that we need to allow you to have access to the bank accounts and whatever the case may be, or maybe to make basic healthcare decisions, but not major healthcare decisions. And so, you really have to show the court that there's a need for that, and it's not always granted with full authority.
Yep. Yep. And and it's interesting because a couple calls that have come in just in the last week, and I think you're dealing with one of these. that came in, that I saw initially was the siblings, they start disagreeing because somebody's taken money, like the parents incapacitated or passed away. Somebody's taking money, moving things around. The other kid's saying, "Hey, they're not keeping me dialed in. I don't know what's going on." Now it becomes a trust litigation thing, you
Mhm.
know? So your whole, the takeaway from you is do this thing right up front, get everything airtight and avoid, things falling apart, as life deals you a situation.
Yeah, that's the other thing. If the family can't agree on who's going to be the guardian, then now it doesn't take months; it takes years to figure out the process because it
Yep.
becomes litigated who's in charge of mom or dad. And
Yep.
especially, I'm sure you've seen it a million times as well as I have. Time and time again, you have one child that is able to move in and help the parents out, while another child, has got a busy career, maybe young kids of their own, whatever. Both kids mean well, but because one kid is there in the house, they typically have more access to everything, and the child that's not there in the house thinks that that child's stealing from them, and it just
Yeah.
becomes a big mess, and they can't agree on anything.
Yep. Yep. No, great stuff. This is a great reminder. We're just doing a real quick and dirty one here. We just want to make sure people are thinking about these things. Phil, thanks. And for everyone watching, wherever you're watching this, because we stream this everywhere, it's going out. Maybe it's up here or down here, but we're gonna have a way for you to get one-on-one with Phil for a complimentary call. It can be a Zoom call, it can be a phone call. Get on there with Phil, get into the weeds a bit on your own situation. You'll get some clarity right there and some next steps about how to move forward to get organized and protected, whatever is going on with you. So, Phil, awesome. Thanks so much.
Yeah, thank you, Paul.
All right. Talk soon.